Middle East, nuclear ambitions, and proxy battlegrounds. From Europe's fragile borders, we pivot to a region where shadow wars have evolved into direct confrontation. The Middle East presents perhaps an even more volatile equation than any we've previously examined. One where decades of strategic ambiguity have given way to overt military exchanges between Israel and Iran. What makes this flashpoint uniquely dangerous is the combination of nuclear ambition facing existential opposition, with no diplomatic off-ramp in sight. The October 2024 Israeli airstrike that severely damaged Iranian defense capabilities marked a significant escalation, demonstrating Israel's willingness to conduct offensive operations deep within Iranian territory. This was part of an accelerating cycle of attacks and counterattacks throughout 2023 and 2024 that has shattered long-standing red lines. Each exchange raises the threshold for what constitutes an acceptable level of conflict, creating a dangerous spiral of escalation. "I never thought I'd see Israeli jets in our skies," remarked Fariba, a 53-year-old teacher in Tehran, who described how her neighborhood went dark during the strikes. "My grandson asked if we would have to leave our home." What do you tell a child when you don't know the answer yourself? Iran's geographical position gives it extraordinary leverage over global energy markets. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway connecting the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Sea, functions as a choke point through which approximately 1/5 of the world's oil supply must pass. This strategic advantage allows Iran to threaten global energy security through relatively limited military actions, affecting economies worldwide and providing Iran with significant geopolitical influence despite its constrained economic position. At the heart of tensions lies Tehran's nuclear program. The collapse of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, from which the United States withdrew in 2018, removed critical constraints on Iran's uranium enrichment and centrifuge development. The International Atomic Energy Agency reported in March 2025 that Iran had accumulated approximately 275 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60% purity, technically just below weapons grade, but sufficient for multiple nuclear devices if further enriched. This stockpile represents a critical threshold. Western intelligence agencies assess that Iran could potentially convert this material into enough weapons-grade material for a single bomb in as little as a week, creating an urgent security dilemma for regional powers. This nuclear timeline creates fundamentally different strategic calculations for the United States and Israel. While sharing concern about Iran's nuclear ambitions, the allies diverge significantly in their approach. The United States, under President Trump, has emphasized diplomatic solutions, with the president stating his desire to measure success by the wars we never get into. This preference for negotiation uses military pressure as leverage, exemplified by Trump's warning that failure to reach a deal could result in bombing, the likes of which they have never seen before. Israel, perceiving an existential threat, has adopted a more aggressive posture. Prime Minister Netanyahu has reportedly instructed the Israeli military to prepare for strikes against Iran by mid-2025 if diplomatic efforts fail. The authorization of shipments of 20,000-pound -84 Malawian Quachas bunker buster bombs from the United States to Israel signals potential preparation for targeting reinforced nuclear facilities. What makes this confrontation particularly volatile is Iran's network of proxy forces. Hezbollah in Lebanon, with over 150,000 rockets and missiles, can overwhelm Israeli air defenses through sheer volume of fire. The Houthis in Yemen have demonstrated their ability to target international shipping, while militias in Syria and Iraq provide Tehran with operational reach throughout the Levant. This proxy network creates multiple fronts that would activate simultaneously in any large-scale conflict. The involvement of global powers further complicates the situation. Russia and China have positioned themselves as counterweights to Western influence, holding trilateral talks with Iran. Russia's relationship with Iran has deepened through military cooperation, with Iranian-supplied drones deployed in Ukraine. These relationships mean a regional confrontation could quickly escalate into a multi-power standoff. The United States has attempted to balance deterrence with diplomatic engagement, launching campaigns against Houthi targets while seeking diplomatic pathways. These military actions address immediate security concerns while signaling American willingness to use force when necessary. The deployment of additional U.S. naval assets reinforces this message, creating military leverage intended to strengthen diplomatic efforts. This strategic balancing act carries significant risks. The line between using military pressure as leverage and triggering unintended escalation is dangerously thin. While no party actively seeks all-out war, miscalculation remains a persistent danger, particularly when multiple actors with different threat perceptions interact in an already volatile environment. A direct military confrontation between Israel and Iran would likely unfold across multiple domains simultaneously. Conventional strikes against nuclear facilities, naval operations in the Persian Gulf, activation of proxy forces, and possibly cyber attacks against critical infrastructure. The potential for rapid escalation exists at each of these friction points, with cascading effects that could draw in additional powers. Amid this complex landscape, the fundamental strategic divergence between the United States and Israel persists. Israel views Iran's nuclear program through the lens of existential security, with historical and geographical factors creating a near-zero tolerance for nuclear ambiguity. For Israeli strategists, preventive action, even with significant risks, may appear preferable to accepting a nuclear-capable Iran. The United States, while concerned about non-proliferation goals, must balance multiple regional interests, including the security of military personnel deployed across the Middle East, stability of energy markets, and broader geopolitical competition with Russia and China. This creates a more nuanced approach that emphasizes diplomatic solutions while maintaining military options, a position that can sometimes frustrate Israeli leaders seeking more decisive action. Resource competition, the common thread. While military posturing dominates headlines, a deeper pattern emerges across each flashpoint we've explored. Beyond the power politics and territorial disputes lies a fundamental driver that connects these conflicts: the increasingly desperate competition for critical resources in a world where climate pressures and population growth are transforming abundance into scarcity. The struggle for resources transforms regional tensions into existential contests, where compromise becomes increasingly difficult. Resources create a paradoxical dynamic in international relations. They can either facilitate cooperation through mutual dependency or trigger conflict through competition. Climate change acts as a force multiplier in this equation. Rising temperatures, changing precipitation patterns, and extreme weather events are altering resource availability worldwide. Agricultural yields become less predictable, water sources less reliable, and energy needs more pressing. The collision of increasing resource scarcity with rising demand creates perfect conditions for conflict in regions where tensions already exist, as demonstrated by water riots in Chile in 2019 and resource-driven civil conflicts across the Sahel region. What makes our 5 flashpoints particularly volatile is how each centers around different, yet equally critical resources. These are competitions for the basic materials that sustain economies and populations. In Taiwan, the resource competition centers on intellectual and technological capital. Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing dominance represents decades of accumulated expertise, massive capital investment, and specialized manufacturing facilities. This technological resource creates an asymmetric dependency that transforms Taiwan into a strategic prize beyond its physical geography, similar to how rare earth minerals have triggered disputes between China and Japan in the East China Sea. Kashmir's resource value takes a more elemental form as a natural water tower, capturing precipitation and releasing it through the 6 rivers of the Indus Basin. This hydrological system sustains hundreds of millions of people downstream, irrigating agricultural lands that feed massive populations in both India and Pakistan. The mounting pressure on Kashmir's water resources illustrates how climate change destabilizes existing